What's up, aspiring grinders? This is Characters, and welcome to the Carrot Poker Podcast, episode number 10 or something like that. I've got a special guest with me who goes by the name of RegiTime. What's going on, man?
Yeah, good mate. How are you? Are you well?
I'm pretty good. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
No worries.
What's your name? I don't even know your name, and you're on my show.
My name is Paul, but the only people that call me Paul are basically my mum, my wife, and the police, basically. I've been known as Reg for the long... My surname's Regan, so it's just like the first three letters of my surname. But
gotcha. So it's not a play on being a reg, then? It's got nothing to do with that.
Everyone thinks it, and I look like the biggest nerd ever, but it really is not. It's not even close to poker related. I mean, I've been called Reg since I was at school.
You definitely don't want to go by RegiTime if it means reg, because then, I guess that might be okay. Then people think that you may be a fish, like trying to be a reg.
Maybe,
who knows? The metagame possibilities are endless. Right.
So it's just something someone said to me in the pub once. I walked in the pub and said, "Oh, it's RegiTime," and it kind of just stuck. He was the only person who used it. But I was always rubbish at picking screen names at poker sites. I've got some of the worst screen names ever on my oldest accounts. So I kind of wanted a uniform. So now I'm RegiTime.
Now you've got the brand, you're in business. That's good. So today I want to talk to you about what you kind of specialise in as a poker player and a poker coach, which is not actually grinding out 100 NL Zoom on stars. It's kind of finding softer spots on other sites, right? Some of which don't even allow the use of HUDs and things like that.
Yeah, I'm a bum hunter. I'm not ashamed of that. It's bum hunting. It's got quite, like, in my opinion, people view it too negatively now. It's classed as something that it's like derogatory term. But I mean, I class myself as a bum hunter, and I'm proud to be one. To me, poker is about finding some good spots and stacking up some money. There's a lot of players that have come into poker from maybe gaming, like League of Legends or StarCraft or whatever other games there are, and they're coming for the competitive element, and that's fine. If that's what people want to do, that's fine. But for me, it's about trying to find some good spots to play poker in and just try and stack up some money. You don't see big live games running where just six regulars are battling it out.
Nope, I mean, it's not really feasible, is it? You wouldn't want, if you were like a rich baller, the games don't run anymore. That's like the truth. If you look at like the $25, $50 lobby on Stars, for example, I remember like 5 years ago the games would run because there were fish coming and going.
Yeah, they'd run because people like Gila Liberty and Scout and whoever else were in the games. Right. They basically, the games ran around them, and once they stopped playing, them games dried up. But in the micro stakes, for some reason, people seem to think it's fine to bash out 1,200 hands an hour, really low win rate, and live off FPPs or rate back. And if that's what people want to do, it's a legitimate way to do it. I have no issue with it. I just don't enjoy it. I don't want to do that. And the kind of people I look to work with are the people who share my sort of outlook. I'm never going to try and convert somebody from that. It's not what I'm about. It's about people who, like myself, that are working class bloke, north of England, just wanted to look to try and make 5, 10, 15 pounds an hour from poker and just monetize the hobby rather than turn it into some hardcore leather ass Nanonoko type monster grinder. I think there's more than one way to do things, and I think a lot of people, they're just really resistant to anything that isn't 1,000 hands an hour or whatever.
Okay, cool. Well, that kind of answers what my first question was going to be, which is, are people making a categorical error by playing games like Zoom on stars? Like, what do you think? Can you give a yes or no answer to that question, or is it more complex?
Unquestionably, because right. I have a really, without sounding really big-headed, I have a really good track record of taking people who were breaking even or losing at 5NL Zoom and encouraging them to move to 888 or Unibet. Maybe it used to be Party Poker before they got pretty regular friendly, and just helping them go from being a 5NL break-even player to a winning player at 30NL. And some players have even gone on to 50NL. And I think there's a huge difference. I think sites like 5NL on stars, 10NL stars is tougher than 30NL on 888. It's tougher than 25NL on Party Poker. It's definitely tougher than 50NL on both Unibet and on Sky. I think the difference is enormous. It really is.
I mean, compare it to live as well. If we walk into a card room in our local casino and we try and play 1-2, we're poker instructors, we would, without sounding arrogant, expect to do very well there and have a very good win rate. Whereas
I played a live game in the casino at Bolton. When was it? Maybe 3 or 4 weeks back, and it was a 1-1 table, and it was just insane.
It is really soft. To keep this in the context of online, then basically you might be suggesting that within these lesser known sites that might not allow HUDs, or the software might not be quite so snappy, but basically what you're getting to do is play like you're playing live, similar kind of tables, but you're able to get in still some of the volume that you can get in with online. So is this like a kind of paradise, like a way of meeting live and online in the middle, getting the volume but equally having the soft games?
Yeah, I guess what I try and do is I try and recreate a live environment in the games I play online.
Okay, cool.
There's still regulars on these sites, so it's not like Sky hasn't got any regulars or Unibet hasn't got any regulars. But what it's got is, if you join the table on 888 or PokerStars, something like that, the minute one fish sits, 5 regulars, the table fills. You'll sit it yourself in like almost like 5 seconds. The table's full. People have scripts, or people are just really adept at searching lobbies. So you never get to play with more than one fish. It's just so rare. Mm-hmm. You're at a table with more than one fish. On sites like Unibet and Sky, and maybe on some of like the smaller like iPoker sites when you're not playing speed poker, if you're prepared to like be patient, you can get on tables often with sometimes 3 or even 4 fish. And then obviously your winner's going to be way higher. If you're at a table with, say, 4 regulars and 1 fish that loses, I see people, it makes me laugh when I see people talk about PokerStars. Oh, there's a good fish at this table, and he's playing like 38-12. And to me, that's like it's an okay fish, but it's not a good fish.
I guess it's all relative, isn't it, to what you're used to? I mean,
so yes, they have a player that's maybe in that lineup losing at 8 big blinds 100 or 10 big blinds 100, but that's barely covering the rake. You know, you need one of those players just to cover the rake, and then you need another player so you can all start actually harvesting some of the profits. So I don't like to play it. When I see someone say I've got a good table, I expect to see at least 2 players with like over 40 VPIP. And then I see other people saying I've got a good table, and you look at it and they've got maybe 2 nit regulars, 2 good regulars, and 1 guy playing, like I said, 38-12. And you think it's a good table. It just isn't a good table. And so I try to have at least 2 fish at every table. I game select really hard. And I try and recreate that live environment. And because I don't need to have as much money spread out across the sites, I can play a little bit higher too. I don't have to keep a lot of money online. I lost a lot of money a few years ago when a couple of sites went bust. So I don't like keeping more than, say, 20 buy-ins on any particular site.
Okay, so
maybe having money spread around 3 sites.
Cool. So here's my next question then. Given that these sites are less reputable and like PokerStars, they've not been around for so long, or this, like I heard recently one of my students was telling me that 888 had actually been removing money from his account without him even knowing about it. You hear about these kind of scandals on the US sites and the more European sites. Is it safe to play on sites like Sky Poker, 888? Can you keep a substantial, say I'm a 100 NL player, I want like 40 buy-ins on there. Should I keep 4K on these sites? What's your sort of verdict on that?
I think Sky's a massive company. It's affiliated to the Sky Poker Network. The Sky TV network, the Sky TV broadband telephone. It's got a lot. It's a huge company. I think your money's going to be incredibly safe on there.
Yeah.
888, it's on the London Stock Exchange. It's worth hundreds of millions of pounds. I'd imagine your money's safe there. I've never heard about people having money deducted from their account on 888. I've heard about it on Party Poker and Ladbrokes. People... Party Poker, definitely. If your account's inactive for more than 6 months, they do take an admin fee of any money you've got in there. And then all Ladbrokes Sportsbook does that too, so I'm presuming the poker does as well. I've never heard of 888 doing it, but the 888 do charge an awful lot of juice for deposits and withdrawals. That's probably the biggest bugbear with 888, is that if you're withdrawing from dollars to pounds, they do the conversion for you and really do charge you. You're probably better if you're on 888 just to withdraw in dollars and let your bank do the conversion.
Okay, solid
advice. You get juiced way less. So just little things like that again, if you're regularly withdrawing, I don't know, say $1,000 a month and converting that to pounds, if 888 are vigging you at 5% and your bank's vigging you at 2% or 2.5%, that makes it like it's worth 1 or 2 buy-ins a month too. Yeah, just little things like that you need to be aware of too. But yeah, I think your money's on the sites I play anyway. I think it's safe. I wouldn't necessarily want to be playing on a US site,
no,
because we all saw what happened with Ultimate Bet, with Full Tilt, and with PokerStars. I wouldn't trust their government at all. Any US facing site, they're acting like outlaws. So if you're playing on a site that's acting like an outlaw, don't be surprised when they steal your money off you.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't play on any US facing site, but I think at Unibet. It's a big reputable company. It's been around for years.
Okay.
888 Sky, yeah. They're all fine.
Right, let's move on to... That's awesome. Let's move on to another question, because I want to get through a few more questions to do with the actual poker side of things. That's been really useful, I'm sure, for people thinking about site selection and where to go. There are these other options. It's really good for us to know that and not just get addicted to the software on Stars, because we're also used to, like, as Stars players, like I play on Stars, I love the site. I appreciate that if I was playing poker professionally, as in like full time, which I'm not right now, because I'm writing and coaching mainly and things like that, I probably would actually definitely want to look into playing somewhere else, and it's definitely something I'm going to suggest to my students and investigate a bit more and look into more, so thanks for that. But let's talk about how do us grinders who are so used to playing on a site like Stars with a HUD, what do you tell your students to do to basically get as much information as they can, given they can't just rely on it filtering in automatically through the use of their HUD? What can they do?
Well, what they should do is what they should be doing even when they're playing with the HUD, and that's playing a manageable amount of tables and hands per hour, so they can actually focus on what's happening at their table at that time. Because if you have a HUD and you're playing, I don't know, you're playing 4 tables of 10 in that Zoom, I mean, there's just so many things it's impossible to pick up on. I mean, if I see a player that's just lost a huge pot and I'm playing 2 tables with him, I can see maybe in his second table he's going to spew or he does something, and I'm aware of it. I know he's just lost a pot on one table, so I'm aware of that on the next table, so I'm more ready for him to go off or, you know, to do whatever it is he's going to do. Whereas when you're playing Zoom, you have no idea from one hand to the next if someone's just lost a big pot, they just won a big pot, are they tilting, are they not tilting it? So I just encourage people to just really pay attention. You're going to be playing less tables. If you've got 4 regular tables running, there's no reason why you shouldn't know everything that's happening on all of those tables if you're paying attention. I think the habit a lot of people do trip into is when they play less tables is to start Facebooking or Twittering or whatever else they do. But if you've got 4 tables, you can concentrate really hard on them all. You should really massively increase your win rate.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you don't need HUDs. If you're concentrating hard and taking notes, paying attention, you don't need HUDs. All you need to know is this person loose passive, is he loose aggressive, etc., etc. You don't need a number to prove that to yourself. You just need to know, you get a feel for what's happening, and I think it's that sort of thing. It actually works out being worth more than just a HUD stat that's been maybe created over 20 sessions when he may have been playing good in half of them, bad in half of them. Just being in the moment, I think, is worth a heck of a lot.
Yeah, definitely, especially when it comes to fish. I think what you say is totally true. That, for example, the book I'm writing right now, there's just one spot where we face like a random shove. You know how a fish will sometimes like just shove pre-flop for 55 big blinds, and we have like ace jack on the button. We're deciding whether to call this under the gun shove. Now, the normal answer to that would probably be no, but this is where it's just such an enormous swing in EV. If you just have the information that he shoved the last 2 hands because you're not playing Zoom, you're instead playing regular tables, then you know his shoving range is close to any 2 cards, and you've just made an enormously plus EV call. So not only is there a big difference between like paying attention and gathering reads at the sort of HUDless sites and things like that, but also even on Stars, even on like full tilt, between playing Rush Zoom and then non-Rush Zoom, you're just going to be in such a better place to make all these high EV decisions. So I'm definitely on the same page as you that Zoom is a good way to absolutely slaughter your win rate, even if you're a very competent player, even if you're good at playing informationless and reverting to GTO strategies, you're still going to just destroy it. And I think that's a really good point about being in the moment and just being aware of what's going on with the fish in question. Like, I'm a big fan of HUDs, and I don't completely agree with you that a read is as good as a HUD stat, because I think that you can find HUD... Basically, I think that you can get data from a HUD that you would miss because, okay, you can be paying attention, but if you really want to increase your volume, I think you do need a HUD. But I guess if you're playing less volume, then the difference in win rate is going to contribute to your hourly as well. So, you know, that's always the dilemma, isn't it?
I mean, I think if I could play with the HUD on these sites, I would absolutely play with it.
Of course,
I'm not saying
yeah.
we could. I think it would definitely add to my win rate. But I think you just put yourself in such good games and just focusing more because you've got less to do, there's less distractions. I think it works out better for somebody like me. But as you agree, I agree with you as well.
It's definitely a trade-off, isn't it? Between
there's different ways. It's whatever you want to be. If you want to be someone who's playing high volume, then you absolutely need a HUD. If you're happy to play low volume, and like more like your semi-serious type players, it's sort of players who want to take poker seriously, but maybe they've got a good job, or maybe they've got a job and they don't have the time, and maybe they just want to get okay at poker or good at poker without really, really pushing themselves because they still want poker to be a fun thing for them rather than, you'll know as many as me, so many poker grinders, they hate poker. They hate it's all they can do now, and they're just not enjoying their life. And I think you have to have a nice balance. And I think playing non-Zoom and not getting hooked up in the whole slaughtering volume and just becoming a HUD bot thing, it can be quite soul crushing for a lot of players.
Definitely, I think like when I used to play poker back in the day as like a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, like 21-year-old guy, just like figuring out that poker was like what I wanted to do in life and sort of getting into it. I remember just having so much passion and energy for the game, and as the years have gone by, I've got into coaching, and that's my real passion now, is like coaching and teaching people how to play this game, and like finally compiling my thesis and writing this book. This is great, but you know what, honestly, have I lost some of my enthusiasm to sit and just love the game and love the complexity and the depth and owning people and all those things? Yeah, definitely. And I think that's because you very much get, when you become a volume player, you get into sort of robot mode where even if you're playing it like a good robot, you're still going to have a lower win rate. You're still going to feel as if you're just variances bitch in a lot of situations. You're just being tossed around, especially if you play Zoom. So definitely agree. And I think for a lot of people who are starting to become sort of discontented with poker, maybe just play on one of these sites, start paying attention again, play live, get in the moment and enjoy like the sort of beautiful essence of the game without getting so wrapped up in how to play GTO against the population, because it does make you a bit robotic.
Yeah, there's something I say to a lot of my students is, and it comes from a film, but I can't think what film it is. We say, if you don't love it, how can you be good at it? You have to love it, and if you fall out of love with poker, which you and I both come across tons of grinders that have, they're not going to produce the best, because they're going to be like another poker session. And I mean, I'm always like really psyched up to play. I just love poker. I'm very much like you. I'm a huge poker enthusiast, and I just love it. I think lots of people don't really that much anymore. They turned it into some really quite dull and robotic job, and I don't think you can be that good at it when that's what your poker approach is. And no, it's just not for me. And I don't think it's for a lot of people, but they just haven't had their mind open to another way yet.
I suppose it is the competitive spirit. Like when you come from these more competitive gaming backgrounds, you want to excel at the highest level. You want to challenge yourself, and I understand why some grinders want to go down that route of just becoming like better than the other regs and battling out small win rates post rake against regs and using volume. And it must feel ego and it must feel fantastic, but perhaps as a population we're getting so obsessed in the sort of pride of 2015 poker knowledge and being good at that we're forgetting the fact that there are still areas in the world, poker world, like there are areas in on Earth, right, that are underdeveloped. And maybe it's just the case that this analogy is absolutely horrible, and if I continue it to the realms of life, it involves going and like taking things from people in Africa, but hopefully bum hunting is ethically a bit better than that. But there are these places in the poker community that they don't have nukes or guns. They're just still running around with like the poker equivalent of like sword and shield and chainmail. So maybe we should go there and make our money. That sounds horrible. So let's just finish with one question. Okay. What would you say to a student, a grinder, who just felt ethically bad about going on a site where it was full of people maybe with gambling problems, maybe people who just like were having a laugh and wondering why they're not beating the game? It's a question that I've always struggled with. Is there something you should be condemned for ethically by having this approach? I'm sure you're going to say no, but what do you think?
I am going to say no. I understand the sentiment, and I wouldn't feel that comfortable if I thought I was really playing poker against people who were destroying their lives. I wouldn't feel comfortable with that. But I don't think I play at stakes where that's going to happen too often. Yeah, of course, I'd hate to think, if I was playing heads up against somebody at, I don't know, 400 nil heads up, and I took £2,000 off them, and I suspected they couldn't afford to do that, I'd be pretty horrified at myself. I wouldn't feel that good about that. But that said, if I don't win it, someone else is going to. These people are going to lose the money no matter what. Someone has to win it, and that's just the way the poker is. If I don't play, is it going to stop you, if you're a degenerate gambler, blowing your £500 off tonight? No, it isn't. You're going to lose that anyway. And we all look to ourselves in life to do as best as we can for ourselves, And if I can make some money playing poker from some degenerate gamblers, I don't have a huge ethical issue with that, because if poker didn't exist, they'd lose it at roulette, or they'd lose it at craps, or they'd lose it on sports betting. So no, I don't feel bad about it. And if someone did, I would say if you genuinely feel that way, the poker probably isn't for you. And maybe go and play tournaments or something else, something where it's not as damaging for people, because cash games are probably the most damaging, I would imagine, in financial terms. I mean, tournaments, people buying into $1 and $2 tournaments, those guys aren't going to be, like losing the mortgage at poker. So if you just wanted to play poker with a little bit of fun for socially, and then didn't want to feel bad when you won, play some little small buying tournaments, but you shouldn't feel bad, because these guys, they're just sort of guys, if they're going to lose it in some other way, they're going to lose it by flipping coins with friends at work, they're going to lose it by playing brag, they'll find a way to lose the money, because that's just the way they're made. And I don't feel bad about it personally, and they probably never would either.
Fair enough.
But that makes me sound really cynical and gnarled.
Well,
I make no apology for it,
I don't think so.
It's just the way the poker business works.
The way I used to see it was, the way I still do think about this, is that poker is an arena. And when you sit down at the poker table, I think that you're at least tacitly accepting that you're entering an environment where you're going to pit your mental ability, with the context of variance being in the background, against those of your opponents, and whoever plays better is going to come out on top. And people understand the context of that situation. So just like a casino doesn't swindle people, a casino makes it very clear that the odds are against you. If you play this game in the long run, you will lose. Poker players know that there's at least some skill in poker, and if they overrate their own ability or something like that, why should that be the problem of anyone who is the beneficiary of that? Why is that your problem or my problem? It's not. It's an arena, and if we see ourselves as kind of mental gladiators like chess players where there's money involved, I don't know. I think that poker, due to the rich complexity of the game, you can definitely be quite happy and proud that you make your money by besting other people in such a competitive arena, for sure. So I have the same answer as you to that. I just thought I would throw it out there and see what your sort of take on it was. But listen, man,
that's my take. It really isn't. And you'll know yourself, it's when you tell people you play poker, they think everyone loses. So I mean, people just don't understand poker. If you're outside of poker, you don't understand it, and you never will understand it. And people who are inside it, they shouldn't be having these moral and ethical dilemmas, because it's its own thing, and you have to just treat it like it's its own thing. And some people do let it cross over into their lives and let it spoil their lives. But like I said, if those people find other addictions to spoil their lives with, if it wasn't poker. So yeah, don't feel bad about it.
Okay, cool. So thanks for coming on the show. It was good talking to you about something a little bit different from what I would normally discuss. And you can find Paul's channel. It's there on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, then it's RegiTime Poker. RegiTime is one word, RegiTime space poker on YouTube. That's his channel, and you do a bunch of just instructional stuff with your students. Is that right?
Yeah, I do a lot of just like record myself playing and just capture my thoughts on it. They're not to a high quality, but they're free. So I mean, a lot of people have got a lot from them. And then sometimes I will record sessions with students and put them on, just as like a different way to show people how they might benefit from working with a coach. They might open their mind to things. But yeah, it's a pretty low key channel. I try and keep it in the theme of like how I play and how I approach poker. So if you are someone who is playing like lots and lots of Zoom and things, you're not going to get much from my channel. If you're a recreational player looking to improve, you're probably going to get a ton from it. That's how I would say it works.
Sounds good. Thanks very much, man, and we will have you back on the show at some point in the future for sure. Thanks for coming on.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
No worries.